I think when the transcript comes out, it's going to read well for him because they did a great job prepping for a read. But that's but the reality is, yeah. But when you get down to it and you start parsing the words, you start realizing, oh yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, what? So, quote, when the transcript comes out, it's going to read well for him. That was Republican member of the Oversight and Judiciary Committee, Andy Biggs of Arizona, with that assessment of the transcript of the Hunter Biden closed-door deposition to which he received interesting. Yesterday, the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees publicly released the full 229-page transcript of Hunter's testimony as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father, President Biden. The document, with some redactions, addressed numerous topics, including Hunter's laptop, addiction, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was mentioned. Hunter attempted to draw a contrast with the scrutiny he's received from the committees and questioned why they were not probing Jared Kushner for his own foreign business dealings. When a lawmaker asked Hunter whether he worked with foreign governments, he responded, "I never worked for a country. I am not Jared Kushner." Hunter also pushed back on Republicans for not investigating the money Kushner's firm received after he left the White House in 2021. When Jared Kushner flies to Saudi Arabia, picks up $2 billion, comes back and puts it in his pocket, okay, and Trump is running for president of the United States, you guys have any problem with that? Hunter Biden also testified he never crossed very bright lines of asking his father to help his business partners and was always sensitive at keeping his father at arm's length. One thing that I was fully aware of my entire life is that my dad was an official of the United States government, he said. And there were very bright lines that I abided to and that I was very, very cognizant of, and made certain that I never engaged with my father in asking him to do anything on my behalf or on behalf of any client of mine. Joining us now, a Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. So what did they find? I mean, what happened here? I hear there was even chuckling at times at the stupidity of it all. I mean, this is a lot of time being spent trying to, I guess, impeach the president at some point here. Is there anything?
Zero. There's absolutely nothing. And the remarkable thing about this 229-page transcript, when you read it, is how little of it relates to Joe Biden, which is the ostensible purpose of this investigation, which has now moved into an impeachment investigation after with 14 months in the books here. There are a couple things you read that I think are very important. When Hunter Biden asked the Republican members of Congress, do you have any problem with that? There were a couple who said yes. It's not in the transcript, but they said yes, and others were nodding, because he did a very good job of confronting them with the difference between what he did, which was dealing in international business with non-government officials, non-government entities, versus Jared Kushner, who received $2 billion from the Saudi Arabian government right after he was the point person on Middle East policy for the Trump administration, and after the advisory board of the Saudi government's investment arm recommended not investing in him because he had never done what he was starting to do. And the contrast is so stark because it is so obvious that what Jared Kushner did deserves investigation. And what Hunter Biden did at this point is just purely punitive and purely attacking someone who has made mistakes and admitted to them, but who's not a public official and never has been. And it's purely being done right now just to provide election fodder for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Congressman, good morning. It's good to have you back with us. Yeah, you kind of led me to my question, which is that Jared Kushner, his name came up several times in that interview, that deposition yesterday. Jared Kushner received $2 billion from the Saudis, and James Comer, Chairman Comer, and others want to talk about the $1,300 car payments for a Ford pickup truck that Hunter Biden received from his father and then reimbursed later. Is it your sense that there are any Republicans who believe that this has just gone on too long, that it is a farce, that all of their star witnesses have now become either fugitives or indicted by the Justice Department, that they come out of these meetings and they tweet breaking news, Hunter Biden says this or that, and it never amounts to anything, that the chairman of the committee, James Comer, continues to say, well, there's a lot of smoke here, we're going to find that fire pretty soon? Or have they just concede that this is something that maybe on the margins hurts Joe Biden among a certain subset of voters, so they're just going to keep this ball in the air through the election?
Well, I think there are many Republicans, and Congressman Biggs' comment about how the transcript is going to read well for him. He's one of the staunchest supporters of impeachment. And if he's saying that, that indicates that there are many, many others who really question this. Even Matt Gaetz has gone on and the air and said there's not enough to impeach him here, and that the other members of the Republican Party will not vote. They don't have the votes for impeachment. They cannot bring this to the floor. And what you have is Hunter Biden putting the nail in the coffin on any allegations which were bogus and unsupported to begin with about foreign influence peddling on the one hand. And on the other hand, you have these bogus Burisma allegations which have been debunked over and over. And now it comes out that the source that they were relying on, the only evidence they had was a confidential human source's reporting to the FBI that was uncorroborated and unverified in the face of so much evidence to the contrary. And now we know not only was that source lying, but that the source was working with Russian intelligence to plant this story in order to interfere in the election. And so it's not just, oh, this investigation has blown up and it's over. It's now at the point, Willie, where if the Republicans continue to go down this impeachment investigation, they are knowingly doing it to assist Vladimir Putin in interfering in our upcoming election. So it's far more serious than just, oh, James Comer at this point is an embarrassment and should be embarrassed with such a terrible investigation. It's now much more serious that these House Republicans are going to be complicit in Russia's effort to install Donald Trump as president again.
Congressman, I'm trying to understand the politics here. Steve Ratner was up here before showing the kind of the growing independence and the swing voters. Tell me the one voter that actually would give a crap about this. That's what I don't understand. Forget the moral issue and as the points that you're making. From the politics of it, it's inane.
Well, the politics are interesting because you obviously have the far right and the ecosphere of Newsmax and Fox News, Sean Hannity peddling this over.
But they already have those voters.
But they are already locked in. And I think it's going to backfire. And I've said this for a while because it was very clear through all of these depositions, most of which I sat in on, that these witnesses that were their witnesses, they brought them in because they were the ones who were going to prove their case. Every single one of them essentially said, no, I have no evidence connecting Joe Biden to anything that Hunter's doing. And so they've overreached here. They have clearly overreached and they have not corrected course. And what that is telling the American people, especially when you compare the ineptitude of this Congress, that we continue to not be able to get anything done because the Republicans can't get their house in order. And so you have the dichotomy of them pushing this Hunter Biden bogus story that at this point is just harassment of Hunter Biden versus doing really nothing for the American people, getting absolutely nothing done, not solving the border crisis, not bringing national security funding to the floor, not funding our government. And it's so clear that all these Republicans can do is politics. And those independent voters who are tired of the partisanship and want to get something done, see Joe Biden compromising on immigration legislation in the Senate. They see Joe Biden for the first 2 years of his presidency passing historic legislation that boosts manufacturing and semiconductor and brings jobs back to America, raises wages. And on the other hand, when the Republicans have been governing, they literally cannot pass any bills amongst themselves in the House. And you have the Senate working in a bipartisan way, and the House Republicans are the block, are the obstacle to solving America's problems, and partly because they're spending so much time on these absolutely absurd investigations of Hunter Biden and Secretary Mayorkas.
You know, it's just, I mean, I'm still stuck on the soundbite that we came into this whole segment with, Dan. I mean, I think it was Andy Biggs, a Republican congressman, saying, you know, it's this transcript is going to read well for him, you know, kind of like you had to be there to really see the crime. Well, then make it public. He showed up. He wanted to do this publicly, and they wouldn't let him. I mean, at every turn, there has been nothing. And a lot of work needs to be done in Congress that is actually serious to the future of this country. So it's frustrating on many levels. Democratic member of the House Oversight and Homeland Security Committees, Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it.